Hey guys, so I'm going to go over how we write equations from a graph. So we talked about on Tuesday, first about how we start by looking at our x-intercepts. We talked about multiplicity, and we did not talk about, but that's what we're going to talk about today, how to write an equation from that. So first thing I'm going to look at is this graph positive or negative, and is it odd or even? Well, the first thing I know is that this graph is odd, and the reason that I know that is because I have arrows going in opposite directions. Okay, so I can go ahead and say that it's odd. And we're also going to see in a minute why it's odd from the degree. And we also know that it's positive because the right side of my graph is going up. Okay, so now we look at our x-intercepts. So if I look at my very first one, I have an x-intercept at -2, 0. And how do I know what the multiplicity is? Well, when your x-intercept is going through the x-axis, making a straight line, it has a multiplicity of 1. Okay, so now I can make a factor from that x-intercept. Remember, when it goes back into the parentheses, I do the opposite sign, so I have x plus 2. And since it has a multiplicity of 1, I have an exponent of 1, and we'll leave that as imaginary. Now I go to the next x-intercept. My next x-intercept is at 0. So I have 0, 0. Multiplicity again at 1 because it's just going through the x-axis. And you can write this one of two ways. You can write it as x plus 0, or you can write it as just x. The last one is 2, 0. That has, again, a multiplicity of 1 because it's going through the x-axis. And that factor is x minus 2. So now, how do I write this as an equation? I take all three of my factors and make them into an equation. Y equals x times x plus 2 times x minus 2. I like to put the x in the front because it just is nice and orderly, sort of like taking out a GCF, and then put my other 2 in the parentheses behind it. Now, how do I find out what the degree? Well, again, remember, you're looking at the exponents. So if I have an exponent of 1, an exponent of 1, and an exponent of 1, that's going to add up to give me a degree of 3. And that makes sense that it would be odd because it has a degree of 3, and 3 is an odd number. Okay, so now I'm going to look at an even graph. Okay, how do I know that the one next to it is even? Both of my arrows are going in the same direction. They're both going up. Since they're both going up, that means that it is positive. And then I start looking at my x-intercepts. So here I have my first x-intercept at -3, 0. It is going through the x-axis, so it has a multiplicity of 1. And then my factor is x plus 3. Now we get into different multiplicity. So my next x-intercept is 2, up here, 0. And this one bounces off of the x-axis. It makes that parabola shape. So that means it has a multiplicity of 2. And since it has a multiplicity of 2, when I make my factor, I have to put an exponent of 2. So this is going to become x minus 2 squared because it's hitting the x-axis twice. Okay, and then my last x-intercept is at 5, 0. And this one is going through the x-axis again, hitting through it. So it has a multiplicity of 1. And my factor is x minus 5. So now for this one, when I write this as my equation, remember standard form, I'm going to put my squared parenthesis first, or my squared factored first. So x minus 2 squared times x plus 3 times x minus 5. Now when I go to do this degree, I have to add up the exponents. I have 2. 1 plus 1 gives me a degree of 4, which again makes sense because it is even. Okay? So there is one more that I want to go over because I want to show you what a multiplicity of 3 looks like. So if you guys will, let me get off of my colors. Go ahead and flip to the back and let's look at this first graph right here. Okay, so first thing I'm going to look at is it is odd because I have arrows going in opposite directions. It is also positive because my right side is going up. Okay, this one, I have my first x-intercept here at 2, 0. And it has a multiplicity of 2 because it bounces off the x-axis. Since it has a multiplicity of 2, when I make my factor, I do x minus 2 squared, since I have those 2. And then I look at the next x-intercept. Now my next x-intercept is 4, 0. Now this is a multiplicity of 3. Remember I said a multiplicity of 3 starts to flatten out, starts to make that cubic shape. So when I have a multiplicity of 3, when I make my factor, x minus 4, I raise it to the 3rd power. Okay? So now, when I go to write my equation from this one, I do it in standard form. So again, y equals, let me click my pen. X minus 4 cubed is first. And then x minus 2 squared is second. When I add those exponents, 3 plus 2, I get a degree of 5. And that would match with me having an odd graph. So your job now is to finish the rest of this paper. You have, I believe, now a total of 5 problems to do. You also need to make sure that your derivative is done for tomorrow, because remember, tomorrow you have your graded practice. I will see you tomorrow. I will be back, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.